Religion.
Remix.
Chapter 1. Moses the Astrophysicist. Modern physics didn't exist until the 1900s. Though various states of matter have been well established since the Greek and Roman times, it wasn't until recently that we understood physics enough to define those states of matter in ways that allowed us to deeply explore and understand their relation to each other. So how did someone named Moses accurately describe the creation of the universe thousands of years ago? It should have been impossible, but he did, indeed, do it. At first glance, the book of Genesis seems like a tale of magic and fairy tale impossibilities. I mean, we know the universe couldn't have been created in just 7 days. That very notion flies in the face of everything we know about physics today, unless we're interpreting the verbiage used in the book of Genesis too literally at some points and not literally enough at others. After all, language and words themselves are simply cultural tools used to describe and convey meaning. When Moses wrote Genesis, words to describe atomic and subatomic particles such as quarks and gluons just didn't exist. So Moses made do with the words available at the time in an attempt to explain events that wouldn't be fully understood until the 20th century. Without a telescope, microscope, or laboratory, Moses described an account of the creation of our universe that would fit neatly into currently accepted creation theories, such as the Big Bang Theory. He had no degree in physics, yet somehow articulated how the universe came into being. We just didn't know how to interpret his words at the time. But today our understanding of science finally allows us to play catch-up to his prophetic account of how not just the Earth but the universe came into existence. If we take Moses' words and apply some modernity to them, we see that the book of Genesis describes a scientifically accurate timeline of events. In the beginning. Genesis, chapter 1. The original text goes as follows. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Note that at this time we need not get wrapped up in defining what or who God is, as it will be far easier to describe God by what God does later on. For now, let's consider the God written about in this portion of the book of Genesis as the universal source of all things. A remixed interpretation of those verses are as follows. In the beginning, everything emerged from source, the singularity that preceded our universe. At first, even our planet did not yet exist. There was only seemingly empty space devoid of discernible physical matter. There were no words to describe the vacuum of outer space, so Moses used other terms. Words like waters and the deep are used to describe the then mysterious and transparent, yet infinitely dark medium vibrating with gluons, quarks, matter, and antimatter, or what we know of as deep space. This deep water was then, as it is now, the foundation of our cosmos. The original scripture continues on. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And now the remix. Suddenly, the universe began rapidly expanding from a singularity into an insanely hot mass of particles and energy that spanned billions of kilometers. As it continued to expand, the emerging universe cooled enough for atoms and ionized molecules to form and permeate the depths of space. As these particles changed into more stable states of matter, they discharged energy in the form of photons, which created light in the universe for the first time around 300,000 years or so post-Big Bang. Then darkness set in again for hundreds of thousands to millions of years, until gravity began to collect and arrange atoms like hydrogen and helium together in enough quantities to create stars and galaxies. The Spirit of God/laws of the universe had created light, reintroduced darkness, then separated the two by forming galaxies and stars throughout the canvas of empty, dark space. And this happened just as Moses described, albeit described in a primitive manner befitting the times. Note that the less than scientific descriptions found in Genesis are understandable. To a human mind and senses in the day of Moses, the creation of light-emitting particles and celestial bodies would have been the first discernible event Moses would have been able to remotely comprehend, let alone describe. Also, earthbound units of time would be a poor means of describing the millions and billions of years that would separate major occurrences in our universe's creation, but Moses did well enough by using the unit of a day. We are conditioned to think of a day as a 24-hour period, but the word has another definition. A day can also be defined as a particular discernible period of time. The first day of the book of Genesis can more accurately be described as the first time period or era where light, in the form of stars, plasma and photons, came into existence. This use of the term day in this way is compatible throughout the first chapter of Genesis and makes far more sense than believing all of this happened in an Earth day. Especially considering the Earth, and its 24-hour rotational cycle will not exist for much of the first verses in Genesis. A familiar example of this usage of the word day can be found inside of the phrase "back in my day." A person using that phrase does not mean "back in my 24-hour period." What they are referencing when they say "back in my day" is a specific time in their life. So at this point in the Bible, and for the first chapter of Genesis, when we see the word day, understand that it is not a 24-hour period being described. What is being referred to is a specific stage in the universe's creation. The first day, more accurately put, is the first stage, the stage of light.